Hey, welcome to Strictly Speaking on the True Blue streaming network. I'm Bob Frantz. It's so good to have you here. We give you great guests every single new episode of Strictly Speaking. Now, to people in Northeast Ohio, which is where this show originates from, you're going to really love this, but you already know a lot about this guy. For the people around the country, maybe less so. But very few people that I've ever talked to had a song written about them. Particularly one that is still popular in his town 40 years after it was written. This is the guy I'm talking about.
Bernie, Bernie, oh yeah, how you can roll. Yeah, 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 yeah. Bernie, Bernie, oh baby.
Bernie was written literally over 40 years ago. And this guy has been an institution and a legend in Northeast Ohio ever since his days of slinging it for the Cleveland Browns. People around the country don't understand what Bernie Kosar meant to this town, and they don't understand what he means to so many people who are looking for healing right now. It's been an amazing journey. He's had an amazing career and an amazing life, and we are privileged to welcome to Strictly Speaking, former Browns quarterback, national champion Miami Hurricane, and now spokesman for all things health, Bernie Kosar.
Oh, Bob, thank you for having me here, but thank you for swallowing my cranium with that awesome rendition of that song. And as a man who's sitting here at 60 years of age, it's hard to believe that that was a little bit south of 4 decades ago.
So you were like, what, 23, 24-ish when that?
I'm super blessed to actually sort of know that I was one of the youngest quarterbacks ever in the NFL, and I think I was 21 years old.
21 years old?
At the time then when they're coming back here. And thank you again. I'm repeating myself for swallowing up my cranium, but it really does bring back kind of cool emotional memories, you know, as you get into the...
Does it swell your chest too with pride? You know, it's like, yeah, that was me on Sports Illustrated, and that was me that they wrote this song about, this, you know, that just kind of took in a whole Browns nation full of fans, you know, and became their hero.
Well, thank you. I should just say yes to that and take it from the easier route of swallowing my cranium, exploiting my chest, that when I went to played for the Browns, I could barely lift a $185 and that caved my chest in, so it's not exactly very muscular to start with. Is why I got the sweatshirt on today, from that perspective of it. But the health and wellness journey of when I see and hear that song, and I think of 40 years ago,
yeah,
and I kind of think of the Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia. What a long, strange trip it's been. It's been an awesome trip, but it's almost been like a Cedar Point roller coaster of ups and downs, and I so love the ups. You know, 40 years ago, the song. 40 years ago is the anniversary of the national championship for the University of Miami.
That's right.
30 years ago, 1993 is the anniversary of the Super Bowl ring that's actually in my pocket, that I could put up here.
You take it with you forever? Everywhere you go, I mean?
Not everywhere, but it happens to be around.
Bring that out. Bring that out.
It's around somewhere. It'll look like I'm playing with myself.
Okay.
Right
No,
now.
It's
but in between is those 10 years with the Browns and stuff, and that song and the era of the dog pound evolving, and we're sitting here in 2023. And we're going through some economic downturns with manufacturing and stuff in the Midwest and Northeast Ohio again. The 50s and 60s was awesome for our part of the country and our region, but the 70s and the early 80s was a really challenging manufacturing issue back then. So to have wanting to come back here, being a mommy's boy, growing up in Youngstown in Northeast Ohio, and wanting to come back here and kind of make a genuine difference. It's almost like when I hear that song, it's not a proud much, although I am super proud of it. It's almost kind of like a sense of responsibility that I look at that now and I say, like, the things I was able to accomplish when I was a little boy growing up, I kind of said, man, my goal in life, be a quarterback for the Browns, get to play here, then become an older man, and then kind of cruise out, you know, and sign autographs and hang out. I didn't know that all those games, all those injuries physically were going to take me down a really challenged path physically wise. And then as men, you know, the football men in Northeast Ohio, trying to show we're cool and trying to show we're tough and trying to show that nothing bothers us.
Right.
And that if something bothers us, oh, it's a physical pain. And, you know, I could play through a broken ankle. I could play through a broken arm, you know, busted back and stuff. But, you know, why do you want to cry on anxiety, depression type stuff? Men don't want to mention stuff like that.
No, you're right. You're right.
You
It's
know,
it's you know, it's kind of taboo. You know, you're supposed to be big, strong, tough, and masculine, and those kind of things can break you down. And most, you know, guys don't want to do that. We're going to talk about how you've overcome a lot of those kind of things too. But let's reminisce about the 40-year anniversary of your national championship. I was just kicking that around with Seth, and we were talking about, you know, that Nebraska team in 1983 was supposed to be maybe the greatest college football team ever, with Mike Rozier and Turner Gill and those guys, and
Irving Fryer.
Who are these young? Who's this Kosar kid? Howard Schnellenberger with the goofy name and the goofier mustache, and these Miami guys aren't going to play with them. That is one of the greatest upsets in college football history, and I think that probably still holds true today. When you look back at yourself being what? You were a freshman, right?
Yeah, I was 18, 19 years old.
18-year-old kid on that stage against that team, and in that moment, you were the MVP of the national championship game. When you look back at that, can you even unpack your feelings that when you try to recall that?
At the time, probably not. It's really only, again, I'll probably say this a few more times through the course of us talking, you know, the late third quarter, early fourth quarter of my life. I'm really now just kind of maybe getting a little bit of wisdom or understanding of some of the things that were going on back then. I mean, the University of Miami, the city of Miami, me talking about being a mommy's boy back then, there was a lot going on sports-wise, but life-wise too. So to have the Mario boat lift, where Fidel Castro emptied his jails in the late 70s. University of Miami, we had rioting in the streets in Coconut Grove, right next to the University of Miami. The harmonious world and the beauty of the city of Miami wasn't really established back then. That was back when the movie Scarface came out. Right. That was not a movie, that was a documentary.
Yeah, okay. I've heard people say that who lived down. How did you end up down there, by the way? How did you choose Miami from Boardman, Ohio? I mean,
well, again,
that's a hell of a move.
As a guy, again, as a mommy's boy wanting to be at home and playing up here, I've always been tall, slow, and skinny. So the Midwest they weren't running the wishbone back then, but it was running type conferences. The only people really throwing the football were out west or in Florida.
Or in the South, okay.
So Miami, University of Florida, Florida State, California, Stanford were the schools that were recruiting me. They kind of mortified me to go away to school. I hadn't really been out, again, as a man, as a quarterback, as a guy. I got at 60.
Did you get homesick quick?
Well, not so much homesick, because you're always homesick. You're always a little insecure. You're pretending, even at this age, you're pretending to be cool, to have all the confidence, esteem, and that's why I do the You Matter. Self-confidence and self-esteem for people is sometimes lacking, for sure, for younger boys as we're growing up. So it was somewhat lacking back then. So to have a leader like Coach Schnellenberger, and a guy who was, and I love you so much. He's up in heaven looking up on us, but he'd be in jail today, you know, for how they taught us and coached us. It was massively aggressive. A lot of fallout from some people that maybe didn't like that type of discipline and structure and quasi-abuse.
Didn't it help make you who you are?
Oh, it absolutely foundationally helped make me.
And everybody, because you know, I was coached.
I'm not complaining at all.
I didn't play at your level, but I was coached the same way you're talking about, and it absolutely made men men. It made young men real men. And I'm not talking about that. Doesn't mean you can't be in touch with acknowledging your mental health or whatever, this stuff we're going to talk about. But it was very important, and I feel like today the coddling of the young men is what's leading them to being soft men, and soft men create hard times, and I think we're dealing with that right now.
Yeah, and for him to have that influence on me at that young an age, foundationally, has set the tone for everything that I believe I stand for. Hey, heck, even hanging out, coming to see you today, there was no chance I was going to be late. because Coach Schnellenberger said, you don't, if it's 2 o'clock, bro, you're going to be there at
Life
5
lessons
minutes
you never forget, right?
And you never.
Yeah.
And here I am as an old man now, still, trending towards those same
That's phenomenal.
foundational respect lessons that football taught, and I absolutely love that.
Tell me one of your most famous games, and again, everybody has seen the play a million times, and I'm talking about the Boston College game, one of the greatest shootouts of the entire 80s. It was just amazing. 47-45, you get the best of him. You threw for like 450 yards or some crazy number, and you got him, and it's over, and then he comes down there and fires the famous bomb to Gerard Phelan. And it's one of the, it made him a household name. It made him an icon, I think, even in sports. You ever think back, first of all, did you ever stay in touch with him after that?
So Doug's great.
Yeah?
We
You guys are
keep
cool?
in touch. Yeah, Doug's awesome. Yeah, and I was on with some Boston.
You reminisce with him about all those kind of things?
He's awesome, so he doesn't bring it up.
Yeah.
I mean, just like John Elway's awesome, when we're together, he doesn't bring it up either. He knows, they know it's painful. Okay, we can go through the whole story.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Elway games in pain.
Well, we'll
or
do a
the
little bit of that too, but I'm doing the college
BC
thing
one,
now.
but the BC one with Doug. So actually, I was talking this morning, and you mentioned astutely as the historian of football that it was Gerard Phelan who caught the ball. One of my awesome receivers is the great Brian Brennan. Okay, he'll tell you he was the great Brian Brennan too. Okay, and that great Brian Brennan was always open, even when he was double covered. And as much as I used to get grumpy about talking about that game, that was one of the first Black Friday games, the day after Thanksgiving. And back in 1984, when that was being played, that was one of the first forays into cameras on the sideline. So before that Hale Flutie pass, Bob, I had called a timeout, and because we were on the 1 yard line and we were down, and Coach Schnellenberger left. Jimmy Johnson was my coach, and I love Jimmy Johnson. He's so awesome, and he blessed me I was the only player to have gone to the University of Miami with him, Dallas Super Bowl ring, and the Dolphins with him. But they had called a double reverse on the 2 yard line, and I didn't like it. So you only had 30 seconds, so some of the words that came out of my mouth with the camera right off me. So I laid the F-bomb on there with about 17 seconds to go to run them the F over. Okay, well, David Letterman was calling me to go on a show the next day for that. But it got caught on air. So we ended up scoring. It's the only game I really ever celebrated a little early, which I never did after that. Doug hits that play. But I say to Brian Brennan, he goes, man, I don't like that play either. I go, what are you talking about? You're a BC guy. You should love that. I go, what, you don't like Doug Flutie? Oh, no, I love Doug Flutie. I was my main quarterback. He goes, everybody thought I was the guy who caught the pass.
Oh, my gosh, really?
Yeah, he wanted to be the guy who caught the pass. I go, dude, you were at the Cleveland Browns then. Oh, you were a pro
You
receiver.
couldn't have been.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Now, Gerard Phelan is known just for that play. I mean, that was it. BB went on to have a nice career. Doug Flutie went on to have an iconic
Great
career.
Yeah.
But that's a phenomenal story. I didn't realize that was, that first of all, that you had an F-bomb caught by a sideline cam, and they didn't even have that before.
Right.
You probably figured you were safe. But
Yeah.
so I look back at
My
stories like
grandma
that.
was yelling at me after the game, Bernard, you can't say those words on TV.
Did you go on Letterman?
No, I was an idiot. I was so introverted back then, and afraid to get on an airplane. I didn't go on Letterman.
Wow.
Yeah, for that.
But
He
you had-
still makes fun of me for that.
with that's such an amazing story. I'm thinking back to your time, and again, I asked you how you ended up in Miami, and it's one of the few passing programs. Wonder how you would handle that today, given the fact that now it's a bidding war. Not just everybody offers the same scholarship. Now it's a bidding war among all the major universities because of NIL.
Yeah.
You're a 5-star quarterback like Bernie Kosar. I didn't have star ratings then, but you would have been a 5-star quarterback coming out. You might have, well, we can get you $500,000 a year in NIL endorsements if you come to Miami. Well, we can get you $750 if you come down to either the University of Texas. Do you wish you were 18 now and coming up?
So probably yes is the short answer, but I got a really awesome foundational life lesson that I hope I would have learned some other way. But if I was coming up today, Bob, I probably wouldn't have learned it. So it's maybe a little long-winded and stuff, but to the NILs and stuff, And it's really challenging because, again, I'm so proud of my father and my family, and it's tough for anybody who is an hourly person and the mill's closed. You know, it's not an indictment of you if you can't get a job. The mills have closed.
Right.
It takes a while, you know, to get back into another way of lifestyle or work and stuff. So with the NILs and stuff now with younger players, it is a chance for families to get out of massive issues and stuff. So life sometimes is a little more than football, and this may be a life-changing for families to be able to do that. But if that had been the case, I probably would have been pretty taken care of in terms of the financial stuff. Miami and back then, there wasn't really under-the-table payments. I'm sure there were, but they weren't offered to me, and I was too brainwashed, introverted Catholic to break up any rules and stuff to even understand how to play that. So that wasn't in my thought process. But if the offers today would have been out there with a family in duress, with a younger brother and a younger sister needing to go to college afterwards and somehow having to pay for it, and you don't know, I could see, you know, me being one of those guys doing that.
It's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid.
A ton of pressure on that 17-year-old to run the families.
Yeah.
Even though they say they don't, we're in charge of the families. Okay, we are in charge, and you're not really ready for that. So that whole inordinate amount of pressure on top of playing pressure happens.
Yeah.
So I'll say that as background. But for the young kids out there, and I said this, I came to the University of Miami, and I got down there. Jim Kelly, I'm going to really show my age now, but Jim Kelly was the man, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yep.
Mark Richt was the backup quarterback, ends up being a University of Georgia head coach, Hurricane head coach, a top-tier quarterback. The Heisman Trophy winning, awesome, older than me, Vinny Testaverde is there, running a 4.6 40, lifting 325, throwing like an artist out there, and I'm slinging that crap sidearm. I'm running 5.55, and I'm jump starting, I'm flow starting to get the jump. I can't lift a $185, you know. So I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna transfer. I'm gonna look for a way out to save face. Okay, just like kids would probably do today, and they'd be justified to do it. You can come to a school, get a big check, find out I can't compete, there's too many tough guys here, leave and get another check somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong, because financially most guys don't go from college to the pros, and if this is your chance to make your money and give your family a chance, I'm not going to take that from you. But I didn't have that option. So now here I am, I'm looking like, why am I number 20 at the University of Miami?
I was going to ask you that.
Because I'm like 9th on the depth chart, bro. There wasn't real numbers left, okay? All the real ones were taken by, you know, Jim Kelly's 12. You know, all them real numbers, the Q's got. I'm literally 5th, 6th string. So now, again, you're trying to pretend you're cool. You're a boy. All of us high school boys have that insecurity, even the head quarterbacks and stuff. So now here you are. I'm 5th string quarterback. I'm looking like I'm never going to play. It's Jim Kelly, I thought was going to play a year. I'm going to come in, and then I'm going to learn, and I'm going to get to play. And then I'm looking at 4 dudes around me, and God, they're better than me too. Like this sucks, you know? So I go up to Coach Snellenberger, and I'm still nervous of him, and he's up in the sky, and I have to do whatever he says. So I get the nerve to come talk to him. I go, Coach, when I signed, I kind of thought I was the guy. Here I am now. I'm not even close to the guy. I'm not even in the guy's room. I'm 5th string and stuff. It doesn't look good for me to play next year. I may have to transfer. And he goes, you're right. It doesn't look good for you. I'm like, oh, God, that's not what I want to hear. This ain't starting out right. And he goes, but I got to tell you. He goes, anything in life that's great. You want to be a millionaire? Everybody says in high school, I want to be a millionaire.
Sure.
Oh, I want to be a quarterback for the Browns. I want to be president of the United States. Anything that's great, everybody else wants it too. Okay? So you ain't the only one that wants to be a millionaire. You ain't the only one that wants to be the president. You ain't the only one that wants to be the Browns quarterback or the University of Miami quarterback. So in life, other people want it. So the first time you get a chance to be great, okay? And you're gonna run from a challenge? You can go home to mommy, okay? She'll be nice to you, and a couple of your family and friends will be nice. But I guarantee you, every time something comes up hard, the whole rest of your life, you're gonna run from a challenge. He goes, I gotta tell you, he goes, it's better. He goes, I'm gonna give you a couple % chance. I will give you a chance in spring. He goes, it's only a couple 5% chance. You're probably gonna fail. But he goes, I gotta tell you. He goes, if you go and you leave me right here now, he goes, you'll run and quit your whole life. He goes, and if you go up here now and you do your best and you win, you'll become special. If you do your best and you lose, you'll still be special because you won't die from within. You won't be an old man like me wondering if I could have been great, if I could have been the University of Miami quarterback, because you won't win no national championship. You ain't winning no Super Bowl. You ain't going to the pros, okay, if you quit right now. And I said to me, damn it. And I said, I'm going to suck it up. I had no real personality. I was an introvert. I pretended to be a go-out guy, you know, and I just locked in and studied football and said, I'm going to go for it. And if I don't make it, at least I know I went for it.
So you bought into it. You bought into everything he said.
Oh, I bought into it all.
And he was right.
He was so right. And for the young kids and young parents out there, I get sometimes life deals you a bump in the road, and you got to get away from that bump, or you got to make a left or a right. But we are so quick to make the left or right now and to get off task and to say, Bob Frantz is the reason why I'm not good today, so I'm going to run home to another place and go. And somebody else will coddle me for a little bit. That may not be the long-term success. So when I had my valleys, you know, and I had my bumps in the ground past football after the game, I retired at 33. I'm 60 years old. You know, I'm doing way more now that I think's cooler than those cool things I did playing, you know, winning a national championship, getting a Super Bowl ring, playing those Browns games. I feel like I'm doing really cooler things now because I survived. I didn't quit when it was easy to quit. Because, man, it's so easy to quit, to blame people, to, you know, to go down a pathway that's negative. So that really foundationally, this layered.
So how did you overcome your physical limitations? You talk about Testaverde and how much he can lift compared to you and how fast he is compared to you. You had all these physical limitations, and he said he's going to give you a couple, 3, 4, 5% chance in the spring. Yeah. And you did it. How do you overcome the physical? I mean, the intimidation factor, I should say, of some of these other guys who look better in the shorts and t-shirt. Well, I'm going to have to put that helmet on and outplay them. How?
So a few awesome life lessons that he philosophically taught me that I live by. How you do little things is how you do all things. Every day you wake up, you never stay the same. You always get better or worse. So if you can't stay the same, I make a conscious decision to get better, things of that nature to stay focused on every day getting better somehow, some way from that perspective.
Wow. Yeah. And when you, because I want to transition into your NFL career a little bit, and then we're going to get into some modern stuff that you're dealing with. You talked about your sidearm delivery, you know, and you couldn't run, and you had to gear up because you didn't have the strongest arm. But again, you made all of those things work for you. And I remember watching you in those years as a fan, and everybody saying he's the smartest quarterback that's ever played. Yeah. And you kind of have to be. That you saw things that other quarterbacks couldn't see in order to.
And even to your smartest quarterback, and even back to Snellenberger, and how did I end up doing it? Like, how you do little things is how you do all things. And making yourself getting a cognizant, conscious effort to get better each day and stuff, or not. But also too, as to really how you're working and how you're preparing and stuff, is maximizing your strengths and minimizing your weaknesses. Like being so honest with yourself. Like, I'm looking in a mirror. Look, I'm an old guy now. I could tell all the young kids out there, I played 12 years in the NFL. I was a super athlete. I was great at it, you know, And I could bluff my way through it and get away enough with it, but that's just not the truth. So looking at yourself really truthfully, and realizing, minimizing your weaknesses. So I wasn't athletic. I knew I couldn't run away from defensive linemen. So I didn't try to, like how I'm looking at you in eye to eye. As a quarterback who can't run, you would be looking down the field, maximizing your strengths. Not to be cocky, but physically I'm limited. Mentally, God gave me a real good strength with my brain. I was able to graduate college in 2.5 years. I was at school.
That's correct.
Came naturally to me.
Yeah.
The plays, the concepts of the 22 plays. I'm looking at you like I'm reading a defense with the camera there. I could see the camera in front of me. I know it's right there at basically 2 o'clock, but I could see the whole picture there. And to me, those
Did you see everything in slow motion, Bernie?
Oh, absolutely. I could see those 11 guys moving like it's in super slow motion. And I know where they're supposed to go. I know where my 11 guys are supposed to go. Bob, I see you right there. I don't, for respectful for a podcast, for TV, okay, this looks goofy and stuff, and I know you're open, okay? And I could throw it to you and still keep the whole sequence going. That's actually why this is as straight as my right arm goes. But doing and learning those type of tricks to where, again, I'm looking, I got you, and I know I'm looking deep, and I could get run over right now and then somehow slip you the ball, and somehow, some way that Jimmy Johnson line, be resourceful and come up with a play, and that's all I thought about. That's all I thought about. I studied plays. I knew structurally where everybody X's and O's had to be, should be, and was so coached by the great Howard Snellenberger that foundationally it still works today. That's what I love watching with our current team. Foundationally, these things still work.
So Bernie, I want to use that to kind of pivot into the discussion about your cognitive challenges you've had because of the way you played, and it's just hitting me right now. And I apologize for being kind of stuttering in this, but
that's all right. I do now too. I'm on 3. I'm not on 7 seconds delay.
It's just kind of blowing me away because it's just now dawning on me that if the number of concussions you had happened to anybody, it would be like tragic. It would be awful. But just listening to you talk about how blessed you were with your brain and how school came naturally to you and how, the game was so slowed down for you because your brain processed things. It's just hitting me harder about how much more difficult it is for somebody who relied on that for all of their success to have had so much of that taken away by, I don't know if it's called CTE.
Yeah.
No,
thank you.
It's just
Whatever
hitting me
the
real hard.
are.
Yeah, I mean, how many concussions did you have?
So, like, as we were coming up here talking about just getting from point A to point B. Look, if we're sitting on camera, you want to pretend you're pretty, pretend you're articulate, show every type of coolness there is out there. Deep down, there's all kinds of things racing through the body and the head and stuff. So, yeah, making some of that stuff is massively challenging.
Yeah, for somebody who just you operated and found all of your success using your mind, and then to have your mind compromised, it's got to be so much harder for somebody like you. So
it's made a big passion, an obsession of mine to, one, it was helping myself and older guys. Then the combat veterans. We'll have 22 veterans commit suicide each day today. It's tragic with that.
Yeah.
But younger parents and younger kids now, and some of the ways of medications and the effects of concussions. I love sports. I love what football did to me. I'm so blessed to learn what I've learned, done what I've done, and have these experiences. And even these injuries, I wouldn't have figured out how to heal myself and heal others if I wasn't hurt myself. All that being said, bro, I was so happy. One of the happiest days of my life was when my son stopped playing high school football, because I did not want to see. It's one thing for you to subject yourself to taking that abuse and somewhat survived it.
So you wouldn't change anything about your career?
Not that you can, so I don't really reflect back and can I change? I really believe that the stuff happened for a reason.
But you know the old saying, if I had it to do all over again, or if I knew then what I know now, I would fill in the blank.
Well, see, if I knew then what I know now, would I want myself to get hurt like that? When I was playing back then and got hurt, I was like, man, just like these phones weren't around, okay, 40 years ago, technology's gotten so much better. I was banking on medicine was just going to get better, okay, and medicine was going to get better and heal those injuries that were happening back then. I didn't think I was the idiot who was going to have to figure out how to heal myself on my own with that. So that part of it has been tough to figure out.
You've heard through the years, because you stayed in Cleveland, the talk radio shows, one of which I hosted, and the whispers about, Bernie's got brain damage, or Bernie Kosar showed up to an event drunk, because you slur your speech sometimes, because you have some things that are impacted by the number of brain injuries that you suffered. How did you feel when you heard those things?
So unfortunately, both could have been true. Okay, and the first one of the brain damage, CTE, TBI, Parkinson's, whatever the acronyms you want to throw at us, we're in that space. Okay, in that space, and we're still there too. It's not all healed, so it's that part isn't. The part that's proud is after that last seizure when I was in a coma for that 96th hour. And the doctor came in and said, man, Bernie, you're such a tough guy. You're doing great. Keep up your prescriptions and protocols. I'm like, bro, I'm on like 60 pills a day. I'm on almost 1,000 milligrams of OxyContins, Adderalls, Vyvanse, high blood pressure, anti-inflammation, cholesterol pills, Ambiens, Xanaxes. And still, you're in pain and you're not sleeping. So the ability to get off of all of that, and not do a pill in 5 years. And 4 years ago, to be diagnosed with 5 years left of cognitive brain function has been life-changing for me. So at times when that was happening...
Wait. Don't gloss over that. 4 years ago...
4 years ago, I was told I have 5 years left of cognitive brain function. The inability... I couldn't say cognitive 4 years ago. I couldn't enunciate, articulate, communicate. I couldn't remember that you're Bob Frantz. Okay, I could not get out words to sit through a podcast. So those whispers were accurate. And how I knew they were accurate was, my daughter was had her birthday the other day. So she's in her, the girls don't like when you say their names. Okay, but let's just say 10, 11 years ago, she was 21 years old. Okay, and on 21 years old, I did an interview that day. And you're legal to drink at 21. So me and her went out to lunch, and I said, hey, you're legal to drink. We could have a drink, but just because it's legal to drink doesn't mean you have to drink. So we had that father-daughter drink on our father-daughter date on her birthday where she was legal to drink and did not have a drink, okay? And I'm telling you the truth, okay? We finished a beautiful lunch at about 3:30. And I had to hustle over because I had to go on air at 4 o'clock for an interview. So, I finally get back about 3 minutes to 4 to do an interview. You guys could call this up on air, okay? 11 years ago, December 5th. And I blow the interview. Couldn't understand me, crying, mumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Seth, almost like one of the interviews we did the old days with Triv, okay? But I knew I wasn't drinking, but I sounded like it. And I knew it, and I was terrible. And that was 11 years ago. So then I started having all those seizures from then to 2017 and had a really bad one. Of my 14 or 15 seizures, about double digits, 10 of them were on airplanes at altitude. So I ironically flopped at the O'Hare Airport going to get a NFL neurologist to did evaluation to get a baseline, and they're denying me as I'm having a seizure, okay, which I really think is ironic how the system is. And instead of being pissed, excuse my language on a podcast, okay, instead of being overly vindictive or angry about it, A lot of us NFL guys go down that litigious concussion lawsuit path. I'm not saying guys shouldn't be overly doing that, but the league has us in a monkey circle, a rat circle of running around, and just keep denying us with it and doing depositions. That wasn't going to heal me. And whether I got money or not, whether I had an attorney to tell me the league was wrong or not, that wasn't going to have me sit here being the father that I want to be to my children and the grandfather that I want to be when my kids have it. So I knew I had to find a health solution for me. So instead of dealing with the attorneys and stuff, I use that as the impetus to really figure out how to heal myself. And I'm super proud to kind of be here today now.
So that's an amazing story, and I really appreciate you being so candid about all of that stuff. So they told you 4 years ago that you had 5 years of cognitive function left. So now we would be going into that 5th year.
Right.
And that is obviously not the case. I'm listening to you right now, and to me you sound like a professor, especially with your ability to instantly recall everything you did, the plays and games and the conversations that were held and so on and so forth. So that's clear. You're not on the decline, at least to the way that they told you. Where are you? What is the new prognosis?
Well, thanks. I've started from 5 years ago till about 2.5 years ago. I was self-medicating, self-finding a holistic journey of food is your medicine, juicing. I live with my Vitamix, modified intermittent fasting, getting off of the pills. It was heavy CBD, THC-based oils with heavy Vitamix juicing and stuff. But man, in the last couple years, and it's interesting with medicinal cannabis and recreational cannabis being legal in the state of Ohio, but in the last, say, 18 months, not that I'm against that, because I'm not really drinking now. So the CBD, hemp, psychoactivity stuff, I understand how to play with, but really in the last 18 months, with digestive enzymes, with trace minerals, with fermented super greens, with optimizing my D level, I've really been able to, I believe, not only slow down the deterioration of my body and my brain, but I actually really believe I'm almost regenerating it.
You kind of guinea pigged on yourself.
I absolutely guinea pigged on myself. I'm also a trustee at the University of Miami. I don't say that to brag. I spend most of my time here in Ohio. When I disappear for about a week, a month, every month, I was piloting my program. We have a really good medical school down there. So a lot of the medical research that I do on myself, Mark Bonacani, God bless him, is a friend of mine from the Bonacani Project, the Cure Paralysis. We've been working on lots of alternative lifestyle medicines to help kind of regenerate. Spine growth anyways, and brain growth. So there's some similarities with some of the research we're doing that bluntly, I piloted on myself to try to come out the other side.
You studied it and you tested it on yourself, and you kind of messed around with different quantities of things and different types of combinations and so forth.
Absolutely.
And you came up with what's on your chest right now. You Matter? Tell
us.
Throw that on the screen, Ryan. Would you throw Bernie's You Matter company up there? Bernie shifted to embracing a new lifestyle that begins with daily essential supplements. Now, we should be clear, right? Anybody who's listening to you talk about this now and how you regenerated yourself and everything else, you don't have to have been suffering from cognitive brain decline because of various reasons. This is just for overall general health for everybody? Is that what we're saying here?
So right now, this is what I have to do for me to be healthy on my day. So from a business perspective, as a guy, as again a man, we're all older men, we're trying to represent awesome business guy, awesome intelligence, okay, and awesome financial abilities and stuff. I back into my financial stuff on it. It's only about what I could do from a health standpoint that I need to
Got
do.
it.
So if it doesn't fit into my body and I don't feel it fits into your body, I don't care what the profitability is. I ain't putting it out there.
That's important.
Because I'm feeding this stuff to my children. So I guinea pig me, one, to be alive for them, and two, to undo some of the things that you do these days with kids who they get overly scripted with Adderalls and Vyvances and things of that nature, the same types of things that I was. So
is it still a work in progress? Are you still a science experiment? In other words, as you age and as you may have continued to degenerate if you had not done this,
yes.
Do you have to tweak things, or do you expect new products to be developed?
We're always evolving. We're always evolving. One of the main things I'm doing right now is the human body is your best chance to heal itself. So the ultra processed food, the way we eat, okay, the medications we're on absolutely inhibit our body from healing itself. So I'm really in my modified intermittent fasting, and I'm not saying this to sell people, but if they would really try to implement this lifestyle and this culture of some of the stuff I'm doing, because there will add products to it, but it's really some of the modified intermittent fasting, some of the ways to flush and detox yourself. And now for somebody like me, again, I'm not against the cannabis plant or the CBD to get off of this stuff and to modulate inflammation or to manage anxiety. But now, to be able to do that with digestive enzymes, how do we break down our foods and get nutrient absorptions, which is really big into the matter part of it, the proteolytic enzymes, what Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson is happening to them with their injuries. From that age to this age, I was on anti-inflammations that it sounds like that's good for modulating inflammation, but it ate my stomach up.
Wow.
Anybody who has these issues, we want to heal the stomach. There's a massive connectivity between the stomach and your brain. So I work on healing the stomach, and the brain function comes along with that.
That's pretty incredible.
And for people out there, like, starting your day, this isn't just for us who have been hurt. Like right now, the anxiety issues, the healing, the flu season starting, the COVID shots are coming back and stuff. I mean, I'm starting to, me and you were joking before on air about like vitamin D. It's so essential, something so simple to optimize your D levels. And they say standard D levels are 20 to 80. I really think you need to be in that 80 to 100 at this time of the year, especially as you age and stuff. The great Dr. Michael Roizen at the Cleveland Clinic, the head of integrative wellness over there. He's partners with Dr. Oz. He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show 53 times, and he started talking to me about how I asked him how to flush and detox naturally, and he got me on the black coffee bean. So I start my day every day, and I'm not saying this as a plug, but it makes me start my day with my Vitamix juice and my Kosar coffee infused with vitamin D.
Do you spell coffee with a K just to keep it?
I was going to with that. I was thinking about that, yes.
So Bernie, I mean, it's an amazing story. I want to go back just briefly to something you said a few minutes ago, because I asked you if you had any regrets, and you said no. You wouldn't do anything any different.
Again, I get mad at people, Bob, who say, I wouldn't do anything different. I would do things if I could do them different, but you know, there's some obvious things. But I mean, in terms of regretting them, I really believe the mistakes I made or the things that I should have done different, they happened because I needed to make those mistakes to sit here today and to learn, to be more transparent, and to do whatever the universe wants me to kind of do with this experiences I've been given.
when we talk about no regrets and having some regrets and the way you would have done things differently, I want to go back to what you said about your son, because I want to talk about football. I want to talk about so many of the things that you're dealing with right now are the result of football. And you said it was the biggest relief of your life when your son stopped playing football. But yet you are still a huge fan of the game. You do pregame work for the Cleveland Browns, and you have great analysis and everything else. So you're still pro football, but you are not necessarily pro young people playing football. It sounds like with what you just said about your son. How do you square that?
Yes is the short answer, but I love what the game teaches you, and there's versions of football, just like there's versions of how you practice and do things. So I absolutely love kids playing and getting together with it, but flag football, like, you don't need to be banging heads from birth. And we go through a whole science of the skull and the brain and the fluid in there and kids hitting. So, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, the flag football is just as good to me as tackle football. I didn't play tackle football until 7th or 8th grade. I ended up in the pros.
I don't think I've disagreed with anything you've said up until this moment, because I've been talking about this ever since, the movie came out with the Dr. Omalu, I think it is, or whatever. And he wrote his book and so forth. And we're talking about kids shouldn't play football like this. And I think to myself, of all of the known cases of CTE, which sadly is not officially diagnosed until after someone dies, you have to, they have to open up the brain to be able to figure out if somebody had that brain disease, if you will. They're all people who ended up playing in the pros and playing, either they're boxers who had professional careers and took repeated blows to the head, or they're guys like you who have taken repeated blows to the head at that high level. I don't think you see any of kids, because most kids aren't going to the pros. Most kids aren't going to college. Hell, most kids aren't going to play high school. If they play football at 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade or whatever, only a very significant percent, or not a significant percentage of them even play in their high school varsities, much less beyond that. So to me, let them experience it and find out if it's for them. Let them experience the fun and the joy of tackling and breaking a tackle and scoring a touchdown when they're young, because the odds of them actually going on to have a career that would lead to brain injury, which is happening later in life, are slim to none anyway. Tell me where I'm going wrong.
So you think they should play early then?
I do. I mean, my son played in 3rd grade through, and he's in college now. But he's one of the 1 or 2% that got a college scholarship. Very few percent, very very low percentage of the kids do that. So what's wrong with letting them play young when they hit much less hard than they do when you're 25 and getting hit by Ray Lewis?
Right. So I could go down that line of thinking, and I'm not just going down that line of thinking because you and me are here, and I'm just trying to be agreeable with you.
I appreciate that. I just disagreed. I just disagreed with my guest here, so I'm okay with that.
No, because I'm thinking how you said that, and I get that. But one of the things I was gonna say, because I thought you were going a little different pathway with it, was I was gonna say, and I do want to say this part to the listeners out there. I get a lot of guys who come up to me, a lot of people, and say, well, I don't need this stuff. I don't have to do it because I didn't play pro football. I just played high school football, okay? Or I just played a little bit of college. Please, for you guys, I'm going to look right in camera. Don't say that. Don't think like that. And I'm not selling you on this. When your brain's developing, okay, those high school hits and those grade school hits are actually more counterproductive to the brain than the ones later in life. So I see as many challenged, like kind of high school type guys who didn't really get past that. So you could, one, if you're treating yourself and you feel like you're changing, you're not sleeping, you're massively uncontrolled in terms of your anxiety and stuff, and you say, you're not sure why, I would really look at some of the stuff I'm doing and not say, oh, because I didn't play pro football, I don't have that type stuff. So I actually see more guys and I hate to say just played high school football because I love high school football. I think it's kind of a formationally imperative for a lot of people to belong and to have a community and stuff. So having that is something I really kind of believe in. But sometimes the kids,
life lesson that you got from Howard Schnellenberger when you wanted to quit is the life lesson that millions get from their high school coaches in football.
And I believe
that's why it's so big.
And they
so
need to get that type of lesson as opposed to not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, like, if and this is maybe hypocritical to not factually intelligent for a guy who wants to be a healer and doesn't want to see his son or young kids have to be wrestling with, you know, a guy who used to be, again, it sounds cocky, a guy who used to be really super smart and now is below average intelligent-wise. I could bluff it, but, you know, it's below average.
That's not accurate, though, and I'm sorry to change the subject here, but I don't like you referring to yourself. You're not any less intelligent than you've ever been.
Well,
you're dealing with a challenge because of the brain injuries that you suffered, but your intelligence, I can hear it.
Well, getting
everything we're
getting
saying.
the thoughts from here
Okay.
out to a
well, then that's a
functioning
communicative issue.
Well, communicative, and then in terms
But intelligence-wise, it's still there.
Well,
I
thank
hear
you.
it.
Well, thank you.
I'm witnessing it. So I don't mean to dissuade to change the subject here at all, but and to take you off that path. But to your going back to your point about the formative years of a young person's life, and they are coming into contact here now because you can't replace the lessons learned from competition, particularly in the game of football. It's unique, and I've got nothing against basketball or baseball or anything else. I played those too.
Okay.
But what kids learn in football is so extraordinarily valuable that I worry about sending a message that says, but live your young life in fear of contacting other kids. Don't play football. Because it's going to cost them more. I think the risk reward, I guess, is what I'm saying
so
here.
I don't go that far with not playing football. I'm just saying at this super early age of it. And I actually think because of the limited hitting that you can get away with it then. And also,
and lighter hitting too.
It's lighter hitting.
Two 12-year-olds hitting each other
but
is
also,
different.
I actually love lacrosse too, for versions of that for competition and that. But there's hitting in that too. But you're right, to avoid hitting and live your life in fear is actually sending the wrong foundational formative message too.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was coming at. That's the only really thing I've kind of questioned so much about what we've been saying here. But to what you just said about lighter hitting, let's talk about the modern game today. I'm thinking to myself, when Bernie played and, when Dan Fouts played and your predecessor Brian Sipe played, if they were able to play with the rules the way they are now, I can only imagine the kind of crazy numbers that would be put up. But it also kind of cheapens the game a little bit. I know we want to protect players, but you're not allowed to hit the Brian Brennan who's going across the middle now. Used to get his head knocked off. Now you can't because he's a defenseless player. It's changed the game. So how do you evaluate the protection of players versus what it's doing to the game?
So I do like how we're protecting the Qs right now and the players.
And the receivers too, especially.
Okay, so I pride myself on, you just said it perfect, throwing to Brennan over the middle, throwing to Ozzie Newsome over the middle. Ozzie Newsome and Brian Brennan did not catch balls over the middle with their hands like this from Bernie Kosar. I'm so proud of myself that my throws were from the nipples down. Okay? They could catch it and go down. Didn't get any yak from those guys yards after catch, but they're alive and having awesome lives right now because I could throw that ball from here down. Today's game now, actually, you can't hit a defenseless person.
Right.
Back in the old days, that was your fault. If you got hit in a defenseless person, your head had to be on a swivel. That was
or it's the quarterback's fault to the receiver. You
quarterback's
hung me
fault.
out.
It was my fault if I
You get
did
a
that.
receiver coming back going, man, you hung me out because I had to do this for that one, not like you.
So proud that in all my receivers, none of them could say I hung them out up over the middle, hands extended. But today now, that is what you gear for, especially in the scoring zone. Matter of fact, you're sinful if you don't throw it from the chest up because you're not allowed to hit them. So now you could actually
take advantage of those tall receivers
for that.
Yeah.
But in terms of less hits on the quarterback, there are absolute less ones. Look,
has it gone too far though, Bern?
Well,
because we see roughing the quarterback penalty.
I'm looking at the setup of this podcast here. In the old days, bro, from you to me, you were able to still wipe me out after I threw it for 2 steps. So that was a real decapitation that was about to happen to me, okay, or broken ribs and stuff. So I'm glad I'm sitting here. I'm alive. I wouldn't have learned how to foundationally get myself healthy,
Right.
but I don't think guys should go through that.
No.
But the hits, the velocity, with the strength of these guys, is the contact's really there. Why I think you see maybe less contact, missed tackling and stuff, is they don't hit as much in practice, and that's really a good thing.
That's big.
You know,
Yeah.
and back in the old days, practice was harder than the games. That's a kind of old man thing. Oh, cool, we got to do that. But that really was.
Didn't one of your coaches used to do the Oklahoma drill?
Oh, and yeah, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, no, we built.
I mean, even in the NFL though, did
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean that, which was considered crazy by a lot of people. That's
Right. So, and I bought into that old school military
Yep.
kill or be killed. I'm not proud to say that sitting here as a healer here now, but no, that was my barbaric caveman attitude that shortened my life and shortened teammates of mine's lives. So that's stuff that's probably good. It's been dissipating.
So this is just going to be a fun question for you because everybody does this, talking about GOATs. You know, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls and set virtually every passing record ever done. Joe Montana won 4, though, and was the OG greatest of all time, maybe before Brady. And then there's the talent guys, the Dan Marino, Cannon, and the John Elway. How do you choose the greatest quarterback of all time? And how does a guy with the intelligence and the experience and the wisdom of 60-year-old Bernie Kosar, who's watched it all, how do you decide who the GOAT is and then make your choice?
So it's tough to pick any one of them because we are victims or beneficiaries of the people and places around us. But it's hard to, in the past, before Brady 7, you know, because we're ultimately judged by, you know, how many rings or W's you get. I loved that it's.
Is that fair, by the way, to judge that way?
It's probably not fair.
No, because look at Dan.
No, and look
You know,
at
Dan never got his defense that he
Yeah.
needed to win a Super Bowl. He certainly had the ability and one of the greatest pure talent passers in the history of the world, but he doesn't have any rings, so
Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's definitely probably not fair, and I kind of use the phrase "life's not fair," you know, for it. So it's kind of why I kind of try to stay away from who the GOAT is, because knowing Brady's got 7 rings, I got the honor of playing against Joe Montana with 4 rings. Jim Kelly was my big brother at the University of Miami, okay, at the U. He doesn't have any, but he's a tough guy, and he really taught me a lot. Dan Marino was my teammate and roommate. I love him. He could throw like no other. Love him. And you're so right. It's unfair to be at both sides of it. And all 4 of them are geniuses to me, yet certain ways with rings you look at one way, and certain rings you look at with another. But as a dude who played, and I ain't trying to be the fence nor be nice, dude, those are 4 GOATs right there. And to life ain't fair, maybe football ain't fair. I watched Dan Marino and Jim Kelly make those throws, and you're right, they're special. And it's to like what's going on now, and for people out there struggling, you know, who you're around, you know, the who is really important to your success. And Tom, you mentioned Dan Marino maybe struggled with his running game and struggled with his defense. Who didn't have the right people. You know, I saw a whole debate on this Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, you know, who deserves all the credit. Well, they both do. They both got him. So They both get to share him, okay? So they both deserve that credit, you know, and it's the who. And if you have the right who around you, it makes it going farther, makes it a little easier.
You just mentioned the B word. I would kick myself if I did a full interview with you and didn't ask you about Bill Belichick.
Yeah, good question.
Because,
man.
you know,
yeah, especially with what's going on now and for life now. We could do the whole podcast and keep rolling with it. You know, for people out there for therapeutic and really kind of healing and genuinely going past it. People, oh, you took the high road. Well, maybe, but it's also part of genuine
But
healing.
you can do both. And I think people's feelings can evolve. And I would imagine if you take a high road on somebody like Bill Belichick talking about the career he's had, you're still allowed to have the feelings you had when he decided in 1993 to end your time with the Browns. So again, 30,000 foot view, 60-year-old Bernie Kosar looking back to how you felt at the day that he told you were done and said your skills had diminished. How do you see Bill Belichick as a 60-year-old remembering that, but also looking what he went on to do with his career?
Hey, great question. As you're talking about the holiday season coming up in Bill Belichick, and how did I feel that day in 1993? We're in first place. One of the only teams in first place to have their quarterback cut in the middle of the season. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. We've talked about it the whole time. I was crushed. Okay, I thought my life was over. Okay, I thought that was the end. And this is for people out there struggling in the holiday season. I was so wrong. I was so selfish to think like that. Don't think like that. And it's natural. you had every right to feel sorry for yourself. You had every right to be mad at him. You had every right to be depressed. Well, things happen for a reason, okay? Like, I didn't want to get cut. I thought I was going to start my career and finish it with the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I wish I would have. Yeah, I wish I would have had that Super Bowl ring with the Cleveland Browns. But if I don't get released from the Cleveland Browns, I don't really get a chance to go 6 days later and start for the Dallas Cowboys and then get the monkey off my chest in the NFC Championship game and beat Ronnie Lott and Joe or Steve Young and go to the Super Bowl and get a Super Bowl ring. So does that sequence of getting a Super Bowl ring and get that monkey off my back so I don't have to waste the last 27 years since I retired answering that torturous question, do you have a Super Bowl ring? Okay, because that's a tough question to answer for us if you don't have it, even if it's just check the box off so you don't have to get punished when we leave here and that. So, to have that happen, that doesn't happen. And then, without those injuries, do I start learning all this health and wellness that I'm learning on? And then I love Ohio, but if I don't get released, then do I have to make the decision 2 years later, do I leave and go to Baltimore? I never had to make that decision. Think of that stress,
Never
bro.
thought about that.
I mean, am I sitting here with you? If he doesn't whack me, I probably end up having to go to Baltimore, at the end of my career. Now, what cycle does that send me on? So I don't regret stuff. I believe it happened for a reason. So now you fast forward to when Bill got released from, or he resigned from the Jets. Everybody was calling him, to dog him, and they were dogging him for his bad communication skills. And they all called me to just pile on and put the nail in the coffin and how he's going to screw up in New England. And I'm proud to have been, I coached Bill Belichick's first W, and it was actually at New England, when we beat the Patriots. And he ends up becoming the coach there. And they call me and they go, hey, he does this disaster in the Jets. Well, how do you think he's going to do in New England? I know it's easy to say this today, but I said, dude, he's going to be amazing. He's great on defense, great on special teams. He's going to outsource and learn the offense, and he learned offense. So he put together a massive run there, and that kind of life lesson that I learned from, one, not having to go on that journey, I feel blessed for it.
Did you make peace with him personally? I know you did.
Yeah.
I know you did in your mind. Obviously, you just described how you came
Oh
to
yeah,
grips
yeah.
with-
So he calls me. He's great, man. After the Jets thing, and people thought everyone was crucifying him and saying he's not going to do good. I said, oh, I think he's going to do awesome. And he called me up. He goes, dude, I thank you, man. I can't thank you for, saying that nice stuff about me. He goes, I didn't know you liked me. I go, no, I'm not sure I like you, but I meant it. I meant it. You're awesome. You're going to be an awesome coach. No, I really do like him, but it didn't make my joke as good to him. And yeah, we've been friends since then. And I'm watching what he's going through. Look at people say, why don't I coach? Why didn't I get into coaching? Here I am as a healer, and watching my language, and talking and stuff. the football mentality and to win football games is a massively obsessive, sometimes dark way that you have to think and mindset to get yourself in. It's not a real therapeutic, healing, compassionate space.
Right.
So that conflict with some of the cognitive things going on with me, I enjoy now going down the healing spiritual space. That there is part of me that really understands the football, but for me to be successful and coach up people in the football space, that old Bernie part that Howard Schnellenberger and Jimmy Johnson, Don Shula, Marty Schottenheimer, and Bill Belichick ingrained into me comes out. That guy's a little aggressive.
Wow. You just gave me one final question for you, because you just listed them all. Schnellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, national champion, Super Bowl champion, Don Shula, most wins all time before, Bill Belichick, 7 titles. Who's the best coach you ever
Marty
played for?
Schottenheimer's there.
And Marty, I didn't even mention Marty.
I'm so Jim Soft. I mean, again, it'd be so, okay, a few of them are upstairs looking at me, looking down and stuff, so to pick any one of them.
I know, it's a terrible question to ask you.
Because Marty,
but you've played for some of the best ever.
Oh, look, Marty took a lot of flack for Marty Ball, and I got on a little bit for it. If I coach today, viewers out there, I'd be doing some Marty Ball. Okay, that stuff he did that I would morph into the physical game that Coach Stefanski's doing, it absolutely has a place right now. But, man, for Coach Schnellenberger, Coach Shula, Jimmy Johnson still with us, but those guys, the foundationally, what they taught me, what they ingrained into me, I took so many great pieces from them that I can't thank them enough.
And you're not going to pick one, are you?
Well, I really can't. No, because I really can't. And they're almost, they're in the same space because Howard Schnellenberger and Don Shula really came under the Paul Brown and Bear Bryant. So Don Shula was drafted by Paul Brown, and he's from Northeast Ohio.
Yep.
Howard Schnellenberger went to Alabama by Bear Bryant. Those two met in the 1972 undefeated Miami Dolphins. The only undefeated team was run by Don Shula and Howard Schnellenberger. Those two guys foundationally had the same system, the same philosophical belief. Those two foundationally taught me what I stand for. So when you hear coaches that say they get bummed out at Bernie's knowledge, it's because I am reiterating the great Don Shula and Howard Schnellenberger and what they taught me.
Phenomenal. Well, Bernie, I can't thank you enough for doing this, man. I mean, this has been a treat and an honor, and I just want to congratulate you on not only what you've done to yourself and for yourself, but what you're trying to do to other people. I should ask you, you matter. Where'd you come up with the...
So, you matter. At the University of Miami, we say you matter. So people think I'm pubbing the University of Miami. And again, I'm so proud.
I did not think of that, but now I see it. Now that I see the U, which is, of course...
but please, don't get lost in that, because then all this, your college team, that college team. You matter means I care about you, Bob. And then off camera I could talk to Seth and that, and some of the injuries and stuff that he's going through. And it's not to look good on camera and to feel good and to make people think that you're just Eddie Haskell being nice out there. People have confidence issues today.
Yeah.
And when you know that you matter, that I care about you, that we care about you, self-confidence and self-esteem is so imperatively important. Look, we're old men trying to pretend we got all the self-confidence, self-esteem, and at times we're lacking. So now if we are, how many young boys, younger people, are having self-confidence, self-esteem issues. So when you let people know they matter, their confidence, and I'm trying to build up people's confidence, self-esteem, and belief so that they know they matter, so that they can make a positive difference in other people's lives.
Well, it's going to work. It's going to work. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for coming on here and being a part of our show.
Thanks, Bob.
Give me some.
Appreciate it, brother. You matter.
Thank you, brother, and so do you. This has been my favorite episode to date, and I love all of my guests, but this has been phenomenal. This is Bernie Kosar, the Bernie Kosar that you need to know. Bernie Kosar from number 19 under center. You thought you knew. This is the guy that you need to know. Thanks for watching Strictly Speaking. We'll see you next time.